Chapter 18. There's not a nickel's difference. If I had to name the most important decision I've ever made in my life, it wouldn't be one that happened with fireworks or fanfare. It happened quietly during a simple conversation, one that I didn't fully understand at the time. It took place when I was living in Florida, serving as director of a recovery program at First Baptist Church of Stewart. To my knowledge, it was the only Christ-centered, biblically based 12-step program in the area. We met on Wednesday nights, presenting one of the 12 steps each week, along with scripture passages that supported that particular step. After the teaching, we'd break into small groups, alcoholics, codependents, overeaters, and so on. Looking back, I think it was one of the more self-righteous seasons of my life. I was passionate about the program, but I was also convinced I was doing things the right way. Then, one day, I met a country preacher who worked in addiction recovery. I can't remember his name now, but I remember his presence. We were chatting about our different approaches, and I'm sure I came across as smug. Somewhere in that conversation, he paused, looked at me kindly, and said, "You know, Ed, there's not a nickel's difference between the best of us and the worst of us. We're all cut out of the same cookie dough." I nodded and smiled politely, not really understanding what he meant, and certainly not realizing he might have been talking about me. Inside, I thought, well, sure, that sounds nice and humble and all, but let's be real. There are a lot of people worse off than me. At least I got into recovery. I turned my life around. But somewhere deep down, his words took root. Over the years that followed, life had a way of bringing me back to that moment. Notice things, little confirmations that what he said wasn't just a homespun saying, but profound truth. I remember reading a report from Pfizer not long after that encounter. It said more than 60% of human DNA is identical to that of a chicken, a fruit fly, or even a banana, and that 96% of our DNA is shared with chimpanzees. The most surprising part, the difference in DNA between any two humans is less than 1%. That stopped me in my tracks. What is DNA, I wondered? It's the molecule that carries genetic code unique to each of us. It defines who we are, and yet over 99% of mine is identical to yours, to everyone's. That discovery sent me on a quiet, humble quest, one to understand the oneness of humanity. If I share over half my genetic makeup with a banana, and nearly all of it with you, how different could we really be? Surely there's more that unites us than separates us. Of course, not everyone was convinced. I once shared this idea with someone who scoffed and said, "I don't care about DNA. It's how we live that makes the difference." I get it, and there's truth in that. But I also believe this. We all fall short of the glory of God. Your failures may look different than mine, but at the core, we're all made of the same stuff. That old preacher was right. There's not a nickel's difference between the best of us and the worst of us. We're all cut out of the same cookie dough. That truth has transformed the way I relate to people. It's humbled me, softened me, opened my heart in ways I didn't know were possible, and it's left me with a quiet conviction we're all in this together, whether we realize it or not. Chapter 19. My Life Changer. Whether one identifies as a Christian or not, I believe it's hard to argue with the core teachings of Jesus, especially when we begin to shift from a life of me, to one rooted in we. Regardless of whether one believes Jesus is the Messiah, it's difficult to find fault with how he lived, how he loved, and how he responded to the world around him. You don't have to hold to any particular theology to recognize the beauty in his example. Jesus has served as a model for humanity for centuries, for his compassion, humility, justice, and unwavering commitment to peace. I deeply admire the way he lived. I honor the way he treated people in need. And I am inspired by his nonviolent approach to conflict and power. Do I fall short of that standard? Every day. But still, every day, I want to become more like him. The path I've chosen to follow Christ isn't an easy one, but as someone once said, Jesus never promised us an easy life. He promised it would be worth it. That truth echoes for me in a powerful scene from the 1982 film Gandhi. The movie depicts the historic Salt March of 1930, where Mahatma Gandhi led 5,000 men on a 120-mile walk to the Arabian Sea. Their goal, to defy the British colonial salt tax by making their own salt, a peaceful protest against an unjust law. Under British rule, it was illegal for Indians to produce or sell salt independently, but Gandhi's march was a bold act of civil disobedience, a public stand against oppression. When the marchers reached the coastal desalination site and attempted to take control, they were met with violence. British-led forces struck down the peaceful protesters, beating them with batons while they offered no resistance. One by one, men stepped forward. One by one, they were beaten down. And yet, they did not strike back. The scene is haunting, powerful, and unforgettable. The world watched, and the world was ashamed. The brutality of the British response became an international disgrace. In time, that shame played a direct role in shifting global sentiment, and ultimately in the British withdrawal from India. Today, India stands as a sovereign nation, in no small part because of that nonviolent resistance. The men who marched that day were not Christians. Many were Hindus, many were Muslims. But what they embodied, what they lived, was the teaching of Christ. Through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, God has shown me a better way. Not the way of power or revenge or violence, but the way of love, compassion, and forgiveness. I believe that is the only path that truly leads to peace.